I'm your host, Reena Friedman Watts, and this is the Better Call Daddy Show.
Hey, this is Big Daddy, Wayne Friedman.
That's my grandpa. Grandpa, you ready for more daddy drama?
My dad is my number one hero and number one fan.
And I'm a pretty cool dude.
All right, season 4, baby. Here we go.
More stories you're not going to believe.
And maybe you will after you listen.
5 stars.
5.5 stars, 2 thumbs up.
You are a pretty cool dude.
I love you, Mommy.
Don't stand on the table and damn the public. You'll get some words of wisdom to live by.
Here we go again. Better call Daddy.
You know what your problem is? You like me.
Yeah, I do. Each week, I interview a guest, share the stories with my dad, and then he weighs in at the end of every episode with his wisdom and wit.
Hey, Grandpa.
Everyone from influential players to inspirational fathers, and of course, controversial people.
Grandpa, my mom is calling.
Creating that legacy one call at a time. And welcome to the Better Call Daddy Show.
Stay tuned.
Where's the music?
Better call Daddy cause he knows you best. Better call Daddy cause he's bringing the test. He sees possibilities. Ooh, better call Daddy, he'll be by your side. Better call Daddy, you're the apple of his eye. He sees possibilities. All to complete.
I love this message from today's guest. As Rosh Hashanah, the new year, approaches, remember that none of us are perfect. We're all a little broken, a little worn, a little pained, but we hold on to our past as we build anew. We want to refresh our possibilities, take it step by step, and do it with calm. Introducing the calming queen, Caroline Bass. I am excited to talk to you about breaking free midlife.
Yes.
First of all, I think I listened to every episode of your podcast today, and there's so much goodness there. One thing that you were talking about is taking small steps towards your dreams. And I love how whenever you give advice on your podcast, then you give examples of what you mean.
Good. Was there one in particular or?
Yeah. So you're taking a small step can literally look like doing a recording like this.
Right.
If you know that you love interviewing people, then what are you doing? Are you interviewing people every day? You need to be taking little steps. Are you learning how to edit? Are you getting a better microphone? Are you interviewing people at events? If you know that you have a dream of being a broadcaster, what are you doing? Are you writing about it? Are you doing it? Are you taking action? And here's what action looks like.
Yeah. Through fear. I think a lot of women are so afraid and just hold themselves back. Yeah. So, I do think for me, what the longest thing that held me back was just this fear of the unknown. Can I do this? Am I qualified? What do I know? And then I just really learned that you have to push through all of that and figure it out as you go. And as that happens, your energy starts lifting, and that's how you know that, okay, this is the right path. I feel like people are always I'm at it, this midlife journey, not crisis. It's not crisis. It's midlife. Other side, I'm reaching 50 and I feel like I need to understand kind of where I fit in this world and my purpose. And I really found that I like to think of it as like a coin. I might have mentioned this in one of my podcasts. I don't remember, but you have a coin and on one side of the coin is fear. And really whatever it is that you're afraid of, on the other side is your purpose. And for some reason, we are set up in this life to have to push through that fear in order to find our purpose. And we live in a comfort zone. We live in this space of comfort, and we're so unhappy because we don't realize that we do need to push through that fear in order to get to our purpose.
Yeah, I love that. And when did you start thinking about that?
I was in corporate America for 27 years in education. And I worked with this amazing educational software company that did basically rewired the brain for children on processing issues, auditory processing issues. And it was a great company, loved it. We were all like family. And once the company got bought out, we were all kind of spread through these newer companies that bought us. And I started feeling really unhappy. And I was like, I'm not fulfilling my purpose. Before, I felt like I had this purpose. I was helping these children, and we were working with neuroscientists. One of the neuroscientists created the cochlear implant, which helps children hear. And just really amazing, brilliant people who wanted to do good in this world. It wasn't like your typical corporate America job. And then I got thrown into normal corporate America. And I was like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And I had this point in my life where I could break free and I could do my own thing. And I was so afraid that I didn't. And I just took my cushy, comfortable job and I was working for corporate America. And now I'm on the other side. Now I'm a little bit older, and all the people who are my managers are younger than me, and everyone who's coming in is younger. And I started noticing that I'm like in this different just generation than my coworkers. And that unhappiness started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I didn't even want to show up to work anymore. And I was like, this is not like me. I'm someone who's like makes the most out of anything. And so I felt like it was a voice telling me, you need to do something different. You need to get out and figure out what it is that you want to do. And it was just me holding myself back. Like I kind of knew I had this vision of what I wanted to do, but I was just so afraid that I wasn't doing it until it became too loud. And I realized we don't get a second chance at this life. And I might as well just go for it and do what I mean, even launching my product, my Queen Tulsi product, was terrifying. Are people going to buy it? Are they going to like it? How are people going to relate to this? Can I even do this? Like every step of it was terrifying, but it was so fulfilling. So that kind of helped me get my feet wet into venturing out of the world of comfort into this world of unknown.
Okay, I'm excited to hear about the world of the unknown and the 14 iterations of making your product.
Yeah, pretty much. You want to hear about it?
Yeah, tell me about what that looked like from the beginning. Yeah.
So it's so funny because someone was like, how did you get started? And I always joke, it's actually a true story. But so when I was pregnant with my third, she's now 11, I read the book, Bringing Up Bebe. Do you know this book?
I don't know this book, but I think I should know this book.
So it's a book about this American woman who moves to France. And she was like, why are the French children so cool and the French mothers so cool and so elegant? And she started learning from the French women. And she was like, I'm going to teach you all what I learned, how to bring up bébé, which is like the French style of raising a child. They eat everything. They listen to you. And I was like, I'm going to bring up bébé with my third child. I'm going to be this cool, collected mom. And I had my third. And everything was going well. And there were, these little babies. And then as she started growing up and I had two older boys, everything just kind of fell to the wayside. And I was, shuffling her around. There was no nap time because I had to bring my older ones to all their activities. And I became not the cool, collected mom. I became the stressed out, angry mom. And at some point I was like, this is not what I wanted to be. Like I pictured myself as like this really fun mom and always just kind of like young at heart. And I was like, something is wrong and I need to figure something out. I was just stressed out all the time. I was unhappy all the time at night, especially the night times were the worst for me. It was like at the end of the day, I would just like lose my cool. And I was like, I'm not happy. So I reached out to my doula, who's like this amazing herbalist. And I said, I need some support. What can I do? And she said, have you heard of the Tulsi plant? And I was like, no, I don't know what that is. And she said, it's a really soothing plant. It's the mother of all herbs. It's the queen of all herbs. It's like a mothering plant. It's very nurturing, very soothing, very spiritual, and it will help to just calm your energy down. And she said, take it with some ashwagandha. So I said, okay. So I went to Whole Foods. I picked up some Tulsi. I picked up some ashwagandha. And she told me how much to take of each. So I started mixing and matching both of them. And I noticed a difference within a week. I started just feeling much better. And I started sharing it on my social media. And everyone said, where do you buy it? And I said, I have to buy this from Whole Foods and this from Sprouts and go here and do this. And I was sending everyone links and how much do you take? And so I was telling everyone how much to take. And for a long time, that's what I did. I kind of just mixed and matched. And she told me some other herbs that, if my PMS was out of control, what to add for that. And at some point, my husband said, why don't you just create your own supplements so that you can give it to your friends and maybe market it? And I didn't even know how to begin doing this. And I live in Los Angeles in this area where there's a lot of actually manufacturing plants. I'm actually not far from them where they create supplements. So we started visiting these plants. And I went in there and I said, okay, I met with one of the R&D specialists, like the research and development specialists. And I said, I want a supplement that's going to be organic, that I know where it's sourced from, something that I feel comfortable taking. I want to make sure it has these ingredients. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he walked me through the facility and he said, this is what we do. Like everyone there's all these blank bottles, no label, like unlabeled bottles. He's like, we create the formulas. We just put together what we have and you just put your private label on them. And I said, but how do I know where it's sourced from? And how do I know if it's the top quality ingredients? And I mean, I don't feel comfortable just taking this generic bottle. And he said, this is what everyone does. And I was about to take a picture. He goes, no, you can't take pictures. This is all private. But it was so many companies that I had recognized. And I started realizing that the supplement industry is so unregulated and people really don't know what they're taking. And I had trusted some of the companies that were on there, but they could be sitting there for years and they just come in with a lot of money and they just put their labels on them. But it's so cheap. If I were to do that, it would have been so incredibly cheap to do that. But I wouldn't take it myself. And I'm just a person who I'm not going to sell something that I personally wouldn't take. So I met with a chemist who specializes so these herbs are called adaptogens. They help you adapt to stress. And I met with the chemist and I told him what I wanted. And I said, I want all these things. So he created the first batch for me, which had 14 ingredients. It had all these beautiful mushrooms. I know mushrooms like the big trend now, like reishi and chaga and lion's mane and all of these different ingredients. But because when you have a supplement with a lot of ingredients, every ingredient is diluted. And so I had to take many pills in order to feel any effect, but I wasn't feeling the effect I was going for. I really wanted just to feel calm and like stress-free. And it wasn't working because I had too many ingredients in there. So we started pulling things out. And then we were sourcing I didn't want to source from China. This was during like the pandemic was starting and I didn't want to bring anything from China. I didn't know what was going to happen in China. And I said, let's try to look for other countries because these herbs aren't grown anywhere. Like they have to be grown like on these slopes of these mountains in India or in China. Like those are the optimal soil conditions. And then there's some mountains in France that grow these herbs. And so we just started sourcing from India and France. And we pulled out all the mushrooms and I started feeling like this was working. So I gave it to some friends to try and they loved it and said, yes, they feel the difference. Gave it to neighbors. I started giving it to strangers without really telling them what to expect. I said, just take it, tell me what you feel. And this was like my test run. And they all came back to me saying they feel calm, they feel relaxed, and they feel like they're not as stressed out. So I said, okay, this is the formula. We got it. And we met with a designer who designed my bottle. She worked really hard. And I'm not a designer. Like, I really just wanted it to feel like beautiful, like something that you want to hold in your hand, something you want to look at. Even the name. I mean, we went through so many iterations with the name, but everyone, like, there's a lot of stress-free, like natural stress relief companies on the market, and they all market ashwagandha, which is interesting because that's like the male essence of the herb. It's kind of like an aggressive herb, and they all market the male essence, but Tulsi, she's the queen of all the herbs. She's the mother of all the herbs, and no one ever talks about Tulsi. Like when I talk about Queen Tulsi, people don't really know what that is because but people who don't even know about herbs have heard about ashwagandha. So I said, we're going to market the female essence, the queen of all the herbs, Queen Tulsi. And that's how I came up with the name. And it just took off just through word of mouth. And only the past year have I really been trying to like push it with more marketing. But before that, it was just word of mouth, which was amazing.
Yeah, I had no idea what to expect, but I immediately felt calm and noticed a difference and even gave it to my own son and he liked it. And I love your marketing. It's funny, your marketing is what connected us. I saw that you were sponsoring an event of somebody else that I knew. Can you talk about that event?
Which
Actually,
event?
it was the one in LA. I think it was it with?
It might have been that big event with NGO Hatred and Brooke Goldstein, the lawyer who runs that event.
I think so.
I sponsored that event at this home in Beverly Hills. We did a big fundraiser. So I also donate a portion of my profits. I choose a different charity for Israel every month. And recently I've been choosing the same charity, which is Save a Farm, which is to save the farmlands of Israel because people have forgotten about them. But what's happening is they are being, I don't want to get too political in that, but basically what's happening is there are no more farmers. Everyone is being called to war. And all the reservists have to leave the farmlands and the sons of the farmers have to leave. And so there's no one there to work the fields. And so there's a lot of volunteer organizations to help just pick the fruit and plant the crops, which is such a vital part of Israel. I mean, it's our land, and the farmers they are worried that they're going to lose their land and that non-Jews are going to buy up that land and it won't belong to Jewish farmers anymore. And so there's a big movement to save the farms of Israel. And so I donate for the past few months. That's been the organization that I've been focusing on, just to help the farmers. And at End Jew Hatred, that was an event to really mobilize activism for the universities. And basically what Brooke Goldstein, she's an attorney, a civil rights lawyer, and she said that the way to make change in America is through the litigation, the court system. And that's really the only way that we're going to do anything. It's not through protests. Protests are good for, being vocal, but we really have to just through like massive email campaigns and putting pressure on our politicians and then every university at the kind of grassroots university level to keep our Jewish students safe. So yeah, that was the event.
Yeah, that's something that's important to me as well.
Yeah.
And, I know you have a college age student and I have one that's thinking about college. So
yeah. It's good. My son's going into his junior year. We're actually moving him up in a few days.
oh, wow.
Yeah. So all different ages, a 20-year-old, 17-year-old, and my daughter's 11.
Yeah, you've got your hands full for sure.
Yeah. So that's why it's kind of like, figuring out, like, I'm not empty nester, but I'm at a different place in my life where my kids need me, have different needs. And so now you start figuring out like what's important to you and what are your needs, because so many people don't focus on it until their kids are out of the house. And then they're like in this state of shock. So I think it's important to start planting the seeds before that happens. So it also makes you a happier mom. I feel like I'm happier. I mean, I used to even not go to the gym because I felt guilty leaving the kids. And now, and even last night I went to the gym and I was thinking as I was driving there, like I would never have left in the evening when it's like homework and dinner time to go to the gym. But I had my class and I was going and I felt great. And it's important to do that.
I love that. And I did that too last night and let my husband put the 5-year-old to bed. And I also heard that you make like spa date calendars, like on your calendar, like you signed up for like a membership or something where like you get facials. I want to hear about that.
You know what? It sounds so silly, but it's so important. It's like a membership by my house and you pay every month. And if you don't go 1 month and it rolls over, then you get double packages. So sometimes I save a month and I'll do double package. I don't feel so bad not going because I'm like, now I can get the extra treatment. But it is heavenly. I look forward to it. It's changed my skin. I feel like I've been going, I think for maybe 10 years now since I was in.
Really?
Yeah. And just these monthly treatments. And it's nothing like, I don't do laser. I don't do anything crazy. It's really just more of like either a chemical peel or like a gentle chemical peel or just a regular, like we'll do a little bit of like dermaplaning and microfacialing. I don't know, whatever he does. He knows my skin. He takes care of it. And I just try to trust him. He looks at it. He says, okay, this is what you need today. But it's not like, it's not invasive. And it's also really soothing. They do shoulder massage and neck and head. And it's just great. I love it.
I definitely want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Some people go for body massages, but I feel like I'm going to invest in my face. So
also, I heard you talk about that you grew up in like not so calm at the house. Do you feel like this Tulsi calming supplement that you put together kind of maybe somewhat stems from that?
It definitely does. I was the calming kind of force in my family. And I still am. My mom is like this very tough Israeli, and my dad is this gentle American. And the dynamic was always kind of intense growing up. And there was a lot of fighting and yelling. And I was always like this, I was just like almost like exude like this calm power in the house to like bring the level down a notch. And I noticed I was doing that as a young kid without even realizing it. But then I remember when I went to college, people would always say, oh, you remind me of like the calm before the storm. Like when things are about to get crazy, like you come in and you're like this calm. And I was like, that's an interesting way to describe me. But it always just kind of, I don't know, resonated. Like I was always drawn to create like a homeostasis, like this balance of calm. And it started from the home, I think. And even in my own home, when I start getting stressed and frazzled and I'm about to yell and I just kind of have to recenter myself to bring that down a notch.
I also loved what you said because you said at night, like all of these thoughts would come to you. And now before you go to bed, like you have an exercise of like writing down the little things in your day that you are thankful for and grateful for.
Yeah,
You want to talk about that practice? Are you still doing that?
I do. Not as much as I was, but I do need to go back to it. So I really believe that we are in like this crisis of lack of sleep, and that's affecting like this whole mental health crisis. I feel like a lot of that stems from we're on our phones before we go to bed, and we kind of block everything out, all of our emotions all day. And then the whole day goes by, and then at night it all just comes out. Like there's all these memes of like these moms who are like, oh, all the like our to-do list comes out at night. And so what I noticed that I was doing at night was that I was kind of tallying up all the things I didn't do. And it made me feel bad about myself. And so I would go to bed feeling like, oh, I didn't do what I set out to do. My to-do list is not checked off. What kind of person am I? I'm a loser. I'm not successful. Like all these negative thoughts. And I was trying to push them out of my mind. And I realized that I was working with a life coach, and she said, you do so much. And I was like, I do? What do I even do? She's like, what are you talking about? And she started listing all these things. And she said, I want you to start listing all the things you do. And I was like, but today I did nothing. All I did was, I made chicken for dinner, and I made rice. She's like, you made a homemade dinner. Write that down. I said, okay. She said, you got the kids ready for school. Write that down. You went for a walk. And I said, but I only walked for 10 minutes and I was supposed to walk for 30. She said, you walked for 10 minutes. Write that down. And so I started writing down the little things that we negate. We think they're not important, but they really are important parts of who we are. Like we are showing up and we're trying. That's half the battle. Sometimes I'll say, oh, I only went to the gym today for a 30-minute walk. And I'll put that in my Instagram story. And I'll say, I feel so bad. And someone will say, at least you went to the gym. I didn't even go to the gym. So sometimes you're so hard on yourself when you really don't need to be. And so I started creating this evening abundance list. And it's really looking back at your day, at everything that you did to create abundance. And it's really like if you had a terrible day, you woke up, did you take a shower? Did you make yourself fresh coffee? Write that down. Like if there's nothing for you to think about, because sometimes people are talking about gratitude lists, but gratitude lists can be very broad. I'm thankful for my house. I'm thankful for my family. So you don't really connect to them. But these are these little things that we do that can bring us more of a feeling of abundance. And then what happens is when you go to sleep, you kind of feel a little bit more at peace with yourself. Like, okay, I'm not all the negative things and that negative voice that came to my head, but it also primes your brain to be ready for tomorrow, because now you're thinking about tomorrow and all the things that you're going to write down at the end of the day tomorrow. So if I write down tonight, I met with you and I did this podcast, and I worked on my book club, and I drank my 30 ounces of water. Then tomorrow, I'm also going to remember, okay, yesterday I did those things. I want to write those things down again tomorrow. And so it's just it primes you for more of a setup for success for the following day.
I love that. That's really great advice. Yeah.
It really helped me. Yeah, it's really helped me.
And I know that you connect with the Modeh Ani prayer as well. Are you still doing that?
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite prayer. I actually want to buy a shirt. Some of my friends made a shirt that says Modeh Ani, and I want to do that. I have it over here on my desk. I have it everywhere. And I feel like, so for me, it's like you wake up in the morning and the first words out of your lips are Modeh Ani, thank you. And what people don't know about the Modeh Ani prayer is that in Hebrew, it's Modeh Ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam she'echzarta bi nishmati b'chemla raba emunatecha. Okay, that's the Hebrew. But what that means is Modeh Ani lefanecha, thank you, like to the Almighty. You don't even say God's name in it. That you returned my soul to me. Your faith in me is so great. And so every morning, you're not just saying thank you for giving me this life. It's thank you for believing in me, that you gave me another chance at this life. Here I am again today, because every day is not promised. But thank you for believing in me, that you're giving me another chance today. And so every day it's a reminder that this day is a special day because you are here again. It's not guaranteed. And so thank you for returning my soul and giving me another chance today. There's something I need to do today. And I love that.
And I heard you say too that sleep is like 1/60th of death, and like our soul leaves and is back to our maker or back to our creator. And then when the soul re-enters the body, like that's the prayer that we say.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Sleep is 1/16th death. And when we sleep, our soul goes back up to the creator and we are figuring everything out. We're giving our body a chance to rest because we are souls having a human experience. Our soul lives forever. And so our souls go back to the creator, just a portion. And then we come back every day as a gift because we do have something that we need to do in this life. And part of our purpose is figuring out what is that gift. And sometimes when people get caught up in that, what in Judaism, they like to say that there's something that you know, if there's some knowledge that you know, then your purpose is to share it. You were given that knowledge in order to share. So if you don't know what your purpose is, but you know something, maybe you know how to make the best margarita. Maybe you know how to make the best coffee. Maybe you know how to groom your cat gently. Like anything that you know, your purpose is to share that. You are here to share, not to hold that in. And people feel like, oh, I'm not worthy of anything. I don't know anything, but you do know. And once you start sharing, that opens up the door for more opportunities, more possibilities, more connections with people. And I think that's kind of a slow way, like those small steps to kind of finding why are you here? Why are you sent back every day?
Maybe you know the perfect mix of ashwagandha and Tulsi. Maybe you know that Tulsi is really what should be focused on versus leading with ashwagandha.
Exactly. Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, the queen. Maybe we need to focus on the queen.
I love that. Can you talk a little bit too about, so you started off in this house that was a little bit crazy, and now, you've hit this midlife journey and, you are successfully balancing like the mom and the dream. But can you talk a little bit about the sandwich generation and having to take care of your parents as well, and what your relationship with your parents is like at this stage and what you're learning from that?
Thanks for bringing that up because I think it's a really important topic. I'm from New York and I moved out to Los Angeles about 23 years ago. And then my oldest son was born. And when my oldest son was born, my parents who were in New York, they left and they came out to Los Angeles too. And my sister came. So now we're all here together. We're a very tight-knit, close family. And we all get together like all the time. I talk to my mom 100 times a day, talk to my dad 100 times a day. And I think it was like 2.5 years ago now, my dad had this catastrophic stroke out of nowhere. He was the wine guy at Trader Joe's. He's like this older guy, and he's a wine connoisseur, and he's like this New Yorker, how you doing? And giving people wine and cheese. And, people loved him. His name is Howie, and they call him the Howie Zowies. And they had like a big sign, Howie Zowie Wines at Trader Joe's. And he was like this iconic guy there. And I would wait online. People were like, are you waiting for Howie? I'm like, no, he's my dad. And everyone's like, oh my gosh. And people would want to take pictures of like Howie's daughter. And then one day he was getting ready for work and he just fell over and he couldn't talk. My mom saw him on the floor, called 911, and he had this catastrophic stroke in his brain. And then ever since then, our lives have been upside down. I mean, it was crazy. The doctor said, everyone needs to come and say goodbye because he's not going to last through the night. So we all came and we all were there, all the grandkids. And even my dad was crying. We were all crying and he couldn't eat. He couldn't talk. He couldn't swallow nothing. And they gave him a tube in his stomach to like give him all his nutrients. And my dad was always like into organic foods. Like that's the other crazy thing, but he was very stressed out and he wasn't so religious with his blood pressure medication. He was trying to do everything natural. And sometimes you need Western medicine for certain things like blood pressure. And so I think that, I don't know, I always think back if he had only just taken every day's blood pressure medication, but who knows? But then one day he pulled out that tube, the feeding tube from his stomach. And we went to him and he still can't talk and he couldn't talk. And we said, Dad, you need that tube. You can't eat. And he was like, and he was pointing to his mouth. And so we asked the doctors, any way to try to feed him some mashed foods, some pureed foods. And the doctor said, let's try. And they tried and he was able to swallow and he was starting to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And every single day we would visit him in the hospital and then in the nursing home. Like every day we never, ever left him alone. And I feel like that gave him so much strength. And he saw all the love that he was getting. And he just knew that he was not going to give up. Like he just had this will to fight. And he started getting stronger and stronger. And it really taught me a lot about the power of love. and being there for someone, especially like your parents who it's hard to see them like that. Like in the nursing home, I would rarely see visitors. And when I asked the nurse, and she said it's just too hard for the families to come and see their parents like this, so they don't even come. And yeah, it's really sad. These nursing homes have taught me a lot about elderly care in America. But now, so he's still unable to speak. He does understand, but he's like trapped in this. He spoke 7 languages before the stroke, which is also crazy.
Oh my
And
God.
I know. And now he could just kind of say like, ba, 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 ba. So I always joke. I'm like, Dad, this is your 8th language. Now you say, ba, ba, ba. No, he laughs. He's always a joker. He was like such a joker. Like, it's funny. People, he can't speak, but the nurses know that he's a funny guy because he's just like, I don't know, his expressions. He's such a funny guy. So
Can he write?
he can't write. No, it affected the whole right side of his body, and he was a righty, and his lefty, he can't, the clot I think is too big, and so he can't really form letters. He was trying in the beginning, but he can't now. And at one point he was pointing, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like his cognition is declining. He still understands, but the reading part and writing it has been affected. So his right side is paralyzed, which means that the clot is in his left brain because the left controls the right, and the left is speech and language and more of like that mathematical side of the brain. But the right is still active, which is music. And so sometimes, we'll sing to him and he can kind of hum back those tunes because the right is still active. And so like when we have birthdays and we sing happy birthday, he'll be like, ba, 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 like he'll still sing. And so we try to like sing to him and have him kind of like sing back in his way. But it's really hard. It's really hard.
Oh my gosh.
To then go visit them. And my mom doesn't even drive. I mean, she's a New Yorker and she came out here. He drove everywhere. And so now she takes 2 buses to visit him. It's not easy. Then my sister and I take turns to visit every day that we can, really.
Oh my God.
Kids at home. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does he know about Tulsi? Has he tried it? Can he do
yeah,
that?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We do give it to him. And I mean, because of his blood pressure, so if you're on really high blood pressure medication, you can't take ashwagandha. So it depends.
Okay.
The doctor will sometimes adjust it, but he does need anxiety meds. And he doesn't, even now, he doesn't want to take the medicines. Like they're forcing it to him. And he's like, no, but I'm like, Dad, it's the Tulsi. You can have it. And so he'll take herbs. He likes more of like a natural approach. But oh no, I tell him everything. I'm like, oh, Dad, I have a podcast. He's so proud of me. And, he's always like, he puts his hand on his heart and you see that he understands. And it gives him the will also to just keep living.
Yes. My dad is a big believer in that too. I mean, he's been taking care of his own mom for the past couple of years, and he said that's what she lives for, is us visiting her.
Yeah. Oh wow. So that's your grandmother.
Yeah, his mom.
Yeah.
I just took the kids there this summer, and I've been taking them there since they were babies, and it's crazy because now she pretty much is just in one chair. But for me, even the way that she smiles at me when I walk in, it's worth the entire trip, or just being able to hold her hand. Like that love is like no other.
It's true. Yeah, you feel it, they feel it. It really is important. It really is important. And I see like how there's so many people at these homes where no one visits. And it's just, I don't know, it's sad that we've just pushed our elderly into these homes and kind of pushed them outside away from society. I really see it. I visit all these other homes sometimes because we're trying to move into a better place, but those are also just so depressing.
I actually remember that feeling as a child because my mom had me young and I knew a lot of my great-grandparents and, they wanted to be in the Jewish nursing home in Kentucky. And I was going to I think I was in choir and I used to sing, and I would sing for my grandparents, and then a lot of the other residents would wheel themselves into the room where there was like a whole line of people trying to come into the room with me singing to my grandma. And so then I was like, maybe I should just sing to the whole place. Maybe I should go into the hallway.
Are you a singer?
I used to. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so it became something that I started doing even as a kid, where I would go there and kind of make it more of like a communal thing.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really important. I know, because they can relate to song and to music, and that everyone can understand that, and that uplifts everybody. It's so important. I mean, when I go, I just play music for him all day. Sometimes he'll be in the room and there's nothing on, no TV, no music. I'm like, keep the music on. He needs music.
It's amazing the memories that evokes. Like, even when my grandfather, before he passed away, like, he wanted to hear his old favorite songs that he used to play on records, and now you can just put them on Spotify.
Yeah. I know, the records. It's so funny. It's coming back. My daughter just bought a Sabrina Carpenter. She's like, look what I got, a vinyl. I was like, oh my God.
My daughter got vinyls too. I was like,
really?
oh man, I had a whole collection of those.
It's so funny. That's so funny how it comes back.
I want to know what the dream is now. Is the dream Tulsi? I know that you were talking about creating a class and the high holidays are coming up, and you're a very like spiritually connected woman who thinks about prayers on a very deep level. Talk to me about some of what you're learning right now.
Yeah. So I think the dream is still evolving. Like, I'm just getting started is what I feel. Like I took a pause with my podcast during the summer when my kids were all home, but now I'm going to restart that. But yes, my next step is I want to do this class, which I'm working on behind the scenes. And really what it is I think the class is going to be focused on Jewish heroes in the Torah and like the Jewish understanding of our strength and our resilience and what our ancestors went through. I'm going to start with King David, because King David wrote, I think it's over 75% of all of our prayers, and all of everything that we do in Judaism comes from King David. And he has such an amazing story that people don't even know who he is. I mean, he was neglected. He was thrown into the fields. He was the black sheep of the family. No one liked him in the family. His own mother and father rejected him. And he had nobody. He was like an orphan, basically. And he just said, he was in the fields tending to the sheep. And he said, I'm going to connect to God. I feel connected to God. I'm going to sing to him. And so again, through song and through music, he played the harp and he would connect to God. And so all of our Psalms that we read, like the Tehillim, the Psalms are all songs that he sang to God. And it's all about his conversations with God. And so it's we're supposed to serve God with, in Hebrew, it's called the Reena, Resh Yud Nun Hey, which is Rina, Reena, which is song and happiness. Like, really, no matter what happens, we're supposed to sing to God. We're not supposed to just cry out, which we can cry, but really we're supposed to sing. And that's what uplifts our souls, and that's what connects us to God. And that's how King David connected. And so I want to just teach people, especially in this time of despair and darkness with everything going on around us, like, how do we still find that connection? And when we look at someone like our ancestor, King David, he's also the line of, like, in Judaism, we believe that the Mashiach, the Messiah, is coming. That comes from his line as well. And so how come this person who was an orphan, who was like the black sheep, who went through so many trials and tribulations, who really struggled, how does something so bright come from him, and what can we learn from that? And so I want to start with that story of him and all of his prayers, because, like, I'm in this group of reading Psalms, reading Tehillim. I never read Tehillim before. I didn't even know how to connect to them. They were just like these words that I never understood women who connected to them. So we're supposed to read them. They're supposed to be powerful. But once I started learning about King David and why he wrote them, and I started reading them after October 7th, especially, and understanding, wow, this is exactly the same. Like, everything is a cycle in Judaism. We don't believe in life as like this linear timeline. It's just like this, it's like a spiral. That's how we view time. Like, even our days don't start at, like, in the morning at night. It's not like a block of time like on the calendar. It's sunset to sunset. It's like a wave. So all of the way that we view time is very different than we do like in the Gregorian calendar. And I think when we read the Tehillim, which are words from thousands of years ago, and they relate so much to today, you really understand we are the same soul. We are all just connected, just through different spaces in time, really.
I love that. I read Psalm 44 right before this, but it was just the first one that popped up.
Oh, wow. That's so funny. Yeah. I mean, if you want to read one now, between now and like the high holy days, Psalm 27 is the most important one to read.
Oh, good to know.
Reading every day. Yeah. Psalm 27. It's a heavy one, but it's an important one. That's like what all the Tehillim groups are reading now between now and Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year.
I love it.
Yeah.
Also, the story that you told about King David, like, has my name in it. You
Oh,
said
Reena.
Reena's song. I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Is that your Hebrew name too, Lena?
Actually, Reena's my English name, and my Hebrew name is Rachel Leah.
Okay. Oh, also beautiful, powerful women. Yeah, we're gonna also talk about Rachel and Leah. Yeah, in the
Cool.
class. Yeah, so I'm working on setting up that class because I'm not sure exactly how to. I think I'm just going to do Zoom and set it up through Zoom. So I'm just kind of working all the technical parts of it, but I would like to start by next week, so that way we have like at least 2 weeks before Yom Kippur, and then maybe 2 weeks after. So we're gonna do something like that. And if people want to join in the middle, I'm going to continue. I think that's like my dream. I would love to just be like, I remember when I was a kid, I once had like this vision, and I think it was a dream or a vision or what. And I was like talking to God. And I said, what's my role? And God said, you need to teach. And I remember thinking about that my whole life. And I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. But then now that I'm getting older, I'm understanding, okay, maybe teaching comes in many different forms. Maybe it's through my podcast. Maybe it's through these classes that I want to launch. So we'll see where it goes.
I also think it's interesting too that you said 27 years worked around learning the brain. Do you
Yeah.
think that helps you understand your dad more?
A little bit. Actually, my dad did the program before. So that program that we had was to speed up brain processing. So anyone can do the program. It's like a program on the computer. And anyone who wants to speed up their brain processing, whether through age or through brain trauma, or students who have ADHD and can't concentrate, whatever it is, you don't have to have a learning disability. So we were selling it to schools to be used as classroom-wide implementations. And so my dad, the speech and language pathologist who was the advisor to the program, said, this was years ago. She said, yeah, as my dad was getting older, yes, he can do that. So he went through the program. And it helped him back then. But now, because of his limitations with his hands and like he wouldn't be able to click on the computer anymore. But yeah, it's definitely helped me. It's helped me also understand how my children learn and how the brain processes information and sound. It's really about the hearing sound and the time that it takes from my speech to go to your auditory processing and then to your brain. If there's anything that's warped in there, then you don't hear it correctly. And so you're not able to process that information so quickly. So you're missing like half of what I'm saying. So sometimes teachers will think, oh, these students aren't really listening, but they are listening. They just can't process so quickly. So they're missing every other word, or they're missing the different phonemes and words. That's really what these neuroscientists were finding out.
Did you work with anybody that had tinnitus?
I did not.
Because tinnitus is like where you're missing sounds and you have like ringing in your
Right.
ears.
I know it's the ringing in your ears, but is it also missing sounds?
I mean, my husband has that where like
Okay.
different frequencies he has, like my daughter's voice or mine. No.
Frequencies of voice.
Yeah, but he got hearing aids. So
Does it help?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's hard. Hearing is really connected to everything. You don't realize it.
Also, I'm wondering, like, what would you say to somebody who has a family member that has gone through a stroke?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think to try to be an advocate for that family member, because now I see like they will give you the most limited amount of resources available, and you really need to fight. I mean, we had to fight for the speech and language pathologist. We had to fight for the PT, for insurance to cover everything. And you have to sometimes pay out of pocket for like a better speech and language pathologist. You really need to try to get it within the first 6 months. And we didn't know all of this. We were just like so in a panic that we didn't know. And so we waited a little bit, and we were kind of past that time frame. But I don't know if it would have helped anyway, because it was such a catastrophic stroke. I think if it's a mini stroke, you can definitely bounce back. And I would have them work on building, if it's a mini stroke and they're able to still function, to work on brain processing through puzzles, through computer games. There's a lot of computer games, just to kind of constantly rebuild those connections in the brain that were lost due to that lack of oxygen.
Interesting. I'm wondering even like people who like you said, have like ADHD or are
Right.
all wound up. Like, should we be doing puzzles? Should we be doing these types of exercises?
Yeah, so the way that I approach it, because I don't like puzzles, but I'm always trying to keep my brain sharp, is so I do it through movement, through exercise, and I'm always I have this new gym that I go to where they have me on a program every other day. We do a different type of workout, and I'm learning so many new skills, and by doing that, I'm building new neural connections in my brain, and so that's how I'm very like mind body. I need to move my body in a certain way. I mean, but even if you do Sudoku, if you don't want to move your body, that's also building new connections in your brain, learning a new language, learning the piano, an instrument, like anything that it is that you're building new neural connections in your brain is really important. And even on a simple level, just going for a walk outside where you're seeing the horizon, there's a lot of research done. I know Huberman did a big podcast on this where you see the horizon and you see everything visually passing by you. And so that visual brain connection is really important for just building neural connections.
Okay, speaking of building connections,
Yes.
who would you like to connect with? Like, who would you love to team up with Tulsi? Talk about some people you'd like to partner with and how people can connect with you.
Oh, I haven't thought about that one before. I don't know. I would love to be like Max Lugavere, who's someone that I look up to. Do you know him? He has a podcast, and his mother died of Alzheimer's. And when she was sick and when she died of Alzheimer's, he decided to really change his life around to figure out like what can he do to create a genius brain. And he created a book called The Genius. He wrote a book called The Genius Brain. And he's just very down to earth. He looks past mainstream media's approach to nutrition and health and science and digs very deep and debunks a lot of the myths and gets to the nitty gritty of like what actually creates health and what sharpens your brain and what's important. And I just learned so much from him, and it would be the greatest honor to be on Max's podcast and to team up with him. That would be a dream. And then just moving forward, I mean, I think that what's happened is if you have a headache, you know to take Advil. If you cut yourself, you know to put a Band-Aid on. We have these solutions that are just automatic for us. But if you are stressed, you don't really know. You don't have anything at your fingertips. And so just kind of the stress and the anxiety snowballs. And so I would love for it to be where we get to a place in society where, you know, I call you up and I'm like, I'm so stressed out. And you say, did you take your Queen Tulsi today? You know, like there are natural solutions to our problems, to our ailments that come from nature. And they're sent there to help us. And even in the Torah, it says that God created all of the solutions to our ailments before he even created the ailments. So he created all of the answers, and then he created the ailments. And now it's up to us to put it together, to piece that together so that we can heal ourselves. And I really believe in that. And I'm not for herbal medicine over Western medicine. I'm not that type of person. I really believe that there's a balance, but we don't have to always go to the pharmaceutical solution. Like everyone knows Xanax because the pharmaceutical companies have just pushed that out so much, but Xanax isn't right for everyone. And maybe someone wants something a little bit more gentle and natural approach. And I would love for it to be like just synonymous with natural stress relief. You need stress relief, take Queen Tulsi.
I love that. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to ask my dad?
Oh, your dad. He's the sweetest. I mean, I guess what are his tips on just raising like a brilliant, beautiful daughter like yourself, successful and confident and positive? You know, like if he has any tips to share on parenting a beautiful daughter, because I have a daughter and I would love, you know, for her to be like you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. He will, of course, love that question.
Yeah, thank you.
You've heard from my mom. Now, let's switch it over to Grandpa.
Well, you know, part of the advice that I gave you is that we want to live life to the fullest. And sometimes taking big jumps or trying to run, you can trip and you can fall. So taking things a step at a time and doing it where you build up to it, where you have a good foundation and building blocks, is the way to stay up there if you do reach certain heights. So we want to always go and shoot for the moon, and you want your daughters, and it's really the duty of a father to really give his daughters an opportunity to reach for the stars. It can't be done necessarily very fast. It has to be done gingerly, patiently, and make little steps forward. And isn't that something that she brought up, is that the way to be healthy in life is you have to find natural steps of moving forward mentally and physically as well. And that is really what God's plan is to try to get us and get humanity to make forward steps and not jump to where we can fall and really get nowhere. Or another terminology would be spinning your tires. You want to make sure you know where you're going. And hopefully one day humanity will figure it out. But she is in a big health kick also, because we are such a fragile being with such a limited time on this earth that let's try to enjoy the moment. Let's try to keep our eyes peeled on all of the miracles that God has put in front of us and see what we can do to participate. And she says something also that we've talked about before, is that is our purpose just to have our own self-enrichment, or are we supposed to also learn that there is something bigger than ourselves and to participate the best that we can in humanity and to be networking with others, to be able to help others? Hopefully, when we stumble, that there's others to give us a helping hand as well, and to see if we can be a people. And especially the Jewish people believe in this, is not only on the hierarchy of things, be educated, but also to do things as a community and to do things together where it's not just about ourselves, where we're trying to get everybody to participate. And I think if that would really be the goal, and to be able to, she calls it teach, but the lessons that we learn, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to take that to the grave with us? No, we're supposed to share positive experiences, things that we've even overcome or adversities, and try to share it with others so that they don't stumble. And how many times has something terrible happened to someone and they get the message that they should try to share their misfortune and try to make their sensitivity better for their own family's sake, but to see that others don't fall into that same pitfall and try to help other people that have fallen like they might have. So teaching good lessons is one thing, but we also try to teach the unfortunate circumstances of life to others too, so that we try to give everyone an opportunity to have a little easier time through life. And you can only do that by really sharing these thoughts with everyone. And this is why calling the Better Call Daddy podcast is also gets 2 points, or it gets its 2 cents in, because we are sharing our story and they're sharing their story, and we're communicating that obviously to whoever will listen. But the point is that there's valuable content here from all of the experiences that have been shared.
It helps me.
Me too. And hopefully, Caroline, I hope that you're able to continue to take futuristic steps a little at a time so that you also don't fall and be able to help many others, which is what is in the bottom of your heart. Oh, that was her question. How did I raise such a beautiful girl? And some tips of raising a daughter is that you really have to be a little repetitive, you have to have the patience. You have to set a good example. And you have to give that young lady an opportunity where she can rise above it all, and that she can have the same basics, that she can reach for the stars too, or shoot the moon, either one.
Thanks for listening. Now I think I'm going to go call my dad.
I'll say goodbye and see you the next time.
Thanks for listening to the Better Call Daddy Show. Join us weekly for new episodes and more daddy wisdom.
Better Call Daddy is good advice always.
And love you, Grandpa, and love you, Mommy.
That's so cute. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You can also find special episodes on my YouTube channel, and you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Alexa,
On Good Pods.
or your preferred podcatcher. That's a wrap for now.